Hello everyone, this is Myths and Magic and welcome back to part 13 of the D&D story series in campaign 1. As you can see, I'm in the Alps right now with this lovely view behind me of this nice gorgeous valley and all the trees and snow, and it's quite fitting for this episode because our main heroes are in the mountains defeating an evil lich. And for everyone who's watching at home, Merry Christmas, or if you don't celebrate it, then I hope you're having a nice time anyway. And as per usual, just sit back, relax, and enjoy.
The figure sat on the throne, staring benevolently at the party. He almost sank into the stone seat, slumped and hunched and hooded. Ronnarth unsheathed his axe and wasted no time declaring his purpose. "You!" he shouted, as his voice boomed and echoed across the stone confines of the rocky labyrinth. "I'll rip your head straight off your shoulders." He dragged the great axe across the floor, and sparks flew and lit the ground beneath them. The Goliath swung the axe over his shoulder and beckoned for the figure to move. "Stand up." No response. "Stand up and fight." The figure stood almost autonomously, and its cloak unveiled from its head and shoulders, left tattered on the floor. "Foul slave." Its voice was grinding, metal and raspy. "Many like you have come and died just as quickly. All who have challenged me have fallen, crumpled under my grasp." He started to walk forwards, almost seeming to float across the floor, just in front of his throne to a large circular carving. "Your kind have been felled and slaughtered like the animals you are. Come and meet your death, you mindless drone." The figure raised his hands and started swirling his staff. Purple lights crawled from the earth, and erupting like rabid dogs, hungry for meat and flesh, were skeletons, and in the centre, a large mass of a beast, heavy in build and size, bouldered through from the earth, surrounded by its entourage of undead. "A lich!" Freya shouted. Liches are a strange phenomenon in the realm, rare and only really found in the deepest crevices in the earth, hidden from the eyes of many, while they build their undead empires. Once they were men, mages, wizards, and warlocks, who took their pursuits for power too far, and extended their lifespan beyond the limits unnaturally. Now they are withered, hunched creatures, who seek power, and to carve their names into history. Their friends, family, and lovers, all gone to time while they remain. A horde of skeletons now rushed towards the party, armed with motley and crude weapons. With one swing of his axe, Ronnarth shattered one into pieces, and the bones clattered towards the floor. They were easily felled, but there were so many of the undead. Waves and waves relentlessly kept pushing. Freya casted spells left and right, while grabbing motley items from his tome of infinity, such as aged bottles of alcohol, and using the same pyrotechnic tricks used against the vampires in Phandelver. Augustus reckoned he would try and defeat the large beast, taking his silver sword in hand and sprinting for it. A yellow light trailed behind him, following his sword. After cleaving through undead, he finally reached the large creature, a death tyrant, a form of undead beholder. The death tyrant consisted of a large floating skull with a red glowing light in the singular eye hole. Typically, beholders have appendages holding more eyes, but in this form of unlife, the appendages have worn away, and all that remains are single floating red orbs of light. Augustus, with his forefather's might, smited the beast. Yellow light erupted from his sword and crackled over the death tyrant. However, his radiance wasn't enough. One of the floating red eyes glowed bright as it pointed towards Augustus. A red beam crackled like lightning at him. On impact, he crumpled to the ground, while red energy flowed over him. "Augustus!" Freya shouted. While the death tyrant was busy with the demigod, Ronnarth barreled through the large horde of undead, caring not for the slashes and wounds he took. He reached the lich. Bracing the leather grips of his great axe tightly, he swung. Ronnarth had never fought against the magic user one-on-one, especially not one so aged and practiced as this. The Lich, with a mere effortless swipe of his hand, casted away his axe. Another swing, this time a hit interrupting its magic. Augustus was still paralyzed as the Death Tyrant loomed over him. Its red eyes looked hungrily at its prey. Its center one most prominent. As it opened its mouth, the eyes glowed brighter, and red energy cracked and sparked. Suddenly, a blue beam of energy crashed into the Death Tyrant, pushing it away from Augustus's eyesight. A high-pitched ringing sprang through his head. A voice started fading in. Freyr now peered over him, his bright blue eyes glancing over. "Come on, get up." He grabbed the demigod's hand and pulled him up. Augustus readjusted himself to face the knocked-down Death Tyrant. Together the pair rushed for the beast, with blue and yellow energy crackling behind them. Freyr cast another eldritch blast, aiming straight for the main eye. A hit. While it was blinded, Augustus wildly swung his sword in a fit of frustration, and his eyes glowed a piercing crimson. His strokes became more wavered and barbaric. With each hit he roared like a lion, and the sound echoed throughout the cave. Ronnarth was still locked in combat, and struggling to manage the Lich and his entourage of skeletons. With a booming stomp, ice sprawled across the ground, and spikes jutted upwards into the skeletons. The Lich was trapped in a cage of ice, bent with its head held forward. The Goliath strolled over to the Lich and swung his axe in an arc, beheading the Lich. Leaving behind an array of bones, Ronnarth took the head of the Lich as a trophy, and the party headed back through the cave to the rest of the Goliaths. A large roaring cheer erupted throughout the halls, and the Goliaths bellowed in praise of their leader. The group stayed for a few days, mingling and resting for the journey to come. On the final day, the Goliaths came to a judgment. One of them was named Vahaz, and she gave Ronnarth a gift, a crown of ice of the old Goliath kings, a rarity hidden from the rest of the world, and possibly the only surviving crown left out of the 4 crowns, being crowns of ice, fire, earth, and wind. The rest were lost to time, as did their matching breeds of Goliaths. Legends still echoed of the crown of ice, an artifact passed from crown keeper to crown keeper, its powers staying dormant until someone of old and royal blood would emerge. The crown appeared to be made from ice, yet it never melted. Shades of blue, grey, and white intermingled within the material, and large spikes jutted out from the top. Ronnarth happened to be the best and possibly only candidate. On the last day of their stay, the throne room was cleared out, and a large makeshift table, made from felled trees, sat centre in the room, with Ronnarth at its head. A great feast was held. Roasted and cooked animals lined the tables alongside some berries and fruits, local to the more mountainous regions in the north of Phandelver. Finally, a crowning ceremony took place, with Ronnarth sat in the throne, as the crown of ice was placed upon his head.
Hello everyone, this week's miniature of the week is this. This is another Bannerman, but this time it's for my Lannister army from my Song of Ice and Fire miniatures game army. I really enjoyed painting this miniature. I loved doing the purple to red highlights on the banner there, and of course on his cloaks and his strips of fabric going across into his arm guards. And since the gold is more minimal on here than some of my other miniatures, I enjoyed doing some trimming on his cloaks, some of the ringlets on the banner and the hilt of his sword. But my main goal here was to really get that nice, rich Lannister red. I think it worked out quite well, and I really like the colouring overall across the miniature.